Water has the greatest effect on litter conditions. It affects friability, texture, adhesiveness, microbial activity, odor, ammonia, and thermal insulation. Water is continually being added to the litter by chickens, drinkers, air leakage, water leaks, seepage, drainage, incoming air and humidity, and condensation, and is constantly moving in and out of the litter. But what drives water movement in the litter? Litter moisture content and water activity are both important. Moisture content tells us how much water is in the litter, whereas water activity tells us how freely available water is for evaporation, microbial growth, and for sticking litter materials together. Litter with a high water activity is more likely to cake as more water is available for litter materials to stick together, whereas litter with a lower water activity is likely to be more friable. The availability of water in the litter will usually reduce as manure accumulates over time. This is because the sugars, salts, and proteins in the manure create strong bonds with the water molecules and holds the water more tightly in the litter. Any extra water added to the litter will always increase the water activity. Water activity drives the movement of water between manure and litter, and between litter and the air. Water will move from the material with high water activity to low water activity. Fresh excreta usually contains a lot of water, so when it's added to the litter, which has a lower water activity, water will move from the manure into the litter. When the litter is friable, excreta is broken up and worked into the litter through chicken movement. During periods of high relative humidity due to wet weather or using evaporative cooling pads, wet litter can occur because it's harder for the water to move from the litter to the air. As litter becomes wetter, the water activity increases to the point where the litter particles bond together and are easily compacted. Once this happens, excreta stays on the litter surface and relies solely on water being removed by ventilation. If shed humidity is high, the floor starts to slick over, becoming sticky and wet. The compacted surface creates a physical barrier that slows the rate of evaporation from the litter to the air. Once cake forms, chicken movement alone will not be enough to break it up. This is when litter conditioning is useful to break apart the cake and increase the surface area for evaporation to occur. If shed temperature is too hot or cold, chickens will move to areas of the sheds where it's more comfortable. This can be towards the cool pads and migration fences in hot weather, or the middle of the shed in cool weather. When the chickens move together in this way, their manure is added to the floor in a concentrated area, which can quickly increase the water activity of the litter. The chickens also create a barrier to the floor, which reduces air movement at ground level. This reduces evaporation and litter is more likely to cake. Reduced air movement at ground level also makes it more difficult for the chickens to effectively remove their heat. Water activity, relative humidity, and ventilation work together to remove water from the litter. Keeping shed relative humidity below 60 to 70%, ensuring there is the correct amount of ventilation for flock age, and avoiding any extra water being added to the litter are the best ways to manage litter moisture.